Two boats, 500 lives. This is the story of a tragedy the world almost didn't hear about. Rohingya refugees fleeing war and persecution in Myanmar, vanishing somewhere between desperation and the sea. The United Nations says more than 500 people are now feared dead after two vessels carrying refugees disappeared off Myanmar's coast. Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Deepdive. I'm Asavri Jindal. Today I'm going to speak about a humanitarian crisis that has claimed countless lives but often receives limited global attention: the Rohingya shipwrecks. We break down what happened, who was on board, and why this keeps happening again and again in one of the world's deadliest maritime corridors. According to a joint statement from the International Organization for Migration and the UN Refugee Agency, two boats left Myanmar's western Rakhine state in late June. Boat 1, carrying around 250 people, lost contact shortly after leaving shore. Boat 2, carrying an estimated 280 people, is believed to have sunk off Myanmar's Ayeyarwady coast on July 8th. Together, more than 500 people are unaccounted for. Neither boat has been officially confirmed sunk. There is no wreckage, no black box, no official death toll, just an urgent warning from two of the world's top refugee agencies calling the situation gravely concerning. And here's the detail that makes it even more alarming. These boats sailed outside the regular sailing season. That means rougher seas, heavier monsoon rains, condition experts say are far more dangerous than a normal crossing. In other words, these are already desperate journeys. They became nearly suicidal ones. So who were the people on these boats? Mostly Rohingyas. They are a Muslim minority group, mostly from Myanmar's Rakhine state on the border of Bangladesh, who have faced widespread persecution and have been driven from their homes. After fleeing a campaign of persecution at the hands of Myanmar security forces in 2017, more than 1.2 million Rohingyas have since fled across the border to Bangladesh, where they live in squalid conditions in packed camps. A community the United States has formally classified as victims of genocide. For decades, the Rohingya had faced state-backed violence and persecution. More than 1 million have already fled across the border into Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar. Now to some of the world's largest refugee camps. And here's the part that should stop you. Some of the passengers of these vanished boats have already escaped once. They had already made it to the camps in Bangladesh, and they were traveling back into Myanmar, a war zone, simply to board these boats and try again for a life somewhere else. That tells you everything about the condition inside those camps. Overcrowded, under-resourced, so desperate that people are willing to risk a monsoon crossing on a wooden boat rather than stay. The destination for most of these journeys, Malaysia, Indonesia or Thailand, countries seen as offering safety and crucially the chance of work rather. This tragedy doesn't exist in isolation. Myanmar has been gripped by civil war for more than 5 years, ever since the military junta seized power in the 2021 coup. Conflict monitors estimate more than 100,000 people have been killed since. In Rakhine state specifically, the humanitarian crisis has been made worse by fighting between the junta and the Arakan army, a rebel group that now controls much of the region. And caught in the middle are the Rohingyas, unable to go home, unwanted in the camps and increasingly turning to the sea. The numbers tell the story of just how deadly the choices have become. The UN says nearly 300 people have already died or gone missing in the Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal this year alone, before these two boats are even counted for. That's why aid agencies call this route one of the deadliest maritime corridors on earth. So what is being done? The IOM and UNHCR have called for strong regional and international efforts, including better search and rescue operations and greater access to asylum and protection for those who survive the crossing. But critics point out this call has been made before, after other boats, other tragedies, and still the journey continues for many Rohingya families. It feels just as dangerous as getting on a boat. No Southeast Asian government has yet confirmed a search operation for the missing vessels. No wreckage has been recovered, and with each passing day, hope of finding survivors fades further. Here's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of the story. This isn't just about one storm or one unlucky boat, or rather two. It's about a crisis the world has largely looked away from for years, a stateless people with no safe place to go, no government taking responsibility for their protection. Until the root causes are addressed, the violence in Rakhine, the conditions in the camp, the lack of legal pathways to safety, aid groups warn these voyages and these tragedies will continue. While Myanmar denies committing abuses against the Rohingyas, it refuses to recognize them as citizens, claiming that minority groups are illegal immigrants. About 1.2 million stateless Rohingyas continue to live in overcrowded refugee camps in Bangladesh after fleeing brutal military crackdowns in Myanmar. Those who remain in Myanmar continue to face severe restrictions on movement and access to basic service, with many confined to intermittent and these camps that are so shabbily kept, trapped between conflict and neglect. What is the forward way? Where do they go? What should they look forward to? Ambassador Sushil Singhal, former diplomat, joins us from the broadcast to take us through his perspective. So, appreciate you joining us to take a very important conversation forward, and I want your perspectives. We've spoken about the two boats, the fact that there are 500 people who are unaccounted for, you don't know what condition they're in. This is not the first time, this is not an isolated incident. They do it out of desperation. What do you make of the state in which these people have been left behind to struggle for themselves?
Well, I say the thing is that we have to look at why this Rohingya problem is there. This is as a historical reference because Rohingyas are ultimately these Muslim people who came to Myanmar from, and they're Bengali speaking Muslim mostly, and who came to Myanmar actually during the British time when the British were jointly ruling India as and Myanmar. At the time, these Bengali speaking Muslims, about 150 odd years back, they went to Myanmar and they lived. Mostly they were, nearing the bordering Bangladesh. So because Rakhine state is very close to Bangladesh, so most of them stayed there. And after they became independent, the successive government never recognized them to be their city. They always call them refugees, and they used to they call them Bengali, and claiming that, implying that they have all come from Bangladesh. And 1982, the Myanmar passed a law, citizenship law, which did not recognize Rohingya as an ethnic group. So they became overnight stateless people in Myanmar. They are not entitled for any facility, for any jobs, and they cannot travel also because they don't have any documents. So they are in a very, very difficult situation. And when this civil war started off there in Myanmar, so these people become, as you rightly mentioned in your report, they became sort of a victim of the rebels' war with the military junta. So they, about 1.2 million of them, they went to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is not willing to accept them as citizens because they say they'll have problems. But they are living there and refusing. And the Bangladesh, the condition, as you very rightly described, the condition is very desperate out there. These people are, they have no future, and the condition in which they live in camps is, subhuman, I would say. And then that makes them to escape from Bangladesh as well as from Myanmar, looking for better places for them. Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, they offer a better. Since they don't have any documents, So they travel, now they cannot travel by land because they are being arrested. So for them, only route left is the sea. And this route is one of the most dangerous routes because these smugglers who try transport them, they use the boats which are not seaworthy and take people beyond their capacity, beyond the capacity of the boat. Suppose the boat is meant for 100 people, they put about 200 people in that. And so their journey is fraught with all danger. And whenever there is a problem in the sea, the smugglers never ask for help because they are carrying illegal people and they don't want to be exposed from that. So result is that most of these people on the way die. In
Right.
fact, there's a highest number. I was looking at the figure last year. About 6,500 Rohingyas tried to cross sea, and out of them, 900 died, which is 1 out of 7 died in the sea. And despite that, because the situation is so desperate that they try to take
Right.
this route. Even in this month of July, June, July, when the sea is very rough in that area, they're still trying to cross the sea and go to the Malaysia or Thailand after paying very hefty amount.
Right.
So this, sorry.
Absolutely. So I'm so sorry, I'm a little short on time, but I'd like to thank you for joining us on the broadcast, sharing your perspectives with us on NewsX. On that note, we step into a very short break. Thanks for watching.